you so excited to use paper mache today? I absolutely love paper mache. You can make so many cool things out of it. I just wanted you to learn how to make a bowl because it's a simple shape and it is a great introduction to the possibilities of this material. And you can paint it if you want after, you can cut the edges of it. It's totally up to you how you want to finish this bowl. I would wear an apron for this one. It's gonna get pretty messy. Let's get started. The first thing you want to do is cover your table with newspaper so it's super easy to clean up. Just cover your space, make sure everything's taken care of there. And then you want to tear some strips of newspaper. So newspaper tears in a straight line, usually, and you can even grab a few sheets, maybe even this whole thing. Look at that. Look how many I just tore. And then I would tear that in half, depending on the size of your bowl. So just tear some strips of newspaper. You need this for paper mache. If you don't have newspaper, you could also use newsprint or even color paper. The only kind that doesn't work as well is cardstock. It's just a little bit thicker. It doesn't soak up the paper mache paste as well. So tear up enough strips that you can cover your bowl with. I would take like a section of the paper. You know, you can't ever have too many. I'd rather have more than less so you don't have to stop and tear some. Just get a pretty good pile and then make your paper mache paste. So this is 1 cup of flour, 2 cups of water. Grab a whisk, whisk it, and then you really want this to be the consistency of like pancake batter. All right, so once you mix it, just let it sit for a minute because it's gonna get a little bit thicker as it sits. You don't want it to be so thick that your newspaper won't sink into it. All right, now grab your bowl, and you could use a really big bowl or a small bowl or a medium-sized bowl. It's kind of up to you what size you wanna use. I'm going to use this white bowl. It's a little bit bigger than this small little one, just so I can it's bigger for a bigger example. So you have your bowl, your paper mache paste, and your strips of newspaper. Get those ready because you're gonna need those. And instead of putting it straight on the bowl, you're gonna cover it with a plastic bag or saran wrap. And you can tape the bag closed if you want. So you wanna cover it really well. And again, you can put tape on the bottom if you want it to stay really secure. I'm gonna just leave it like that. And then here's the trick for dipping this in your paste. And if you have a hard time with texture and it bothers you to dip your hands in this, you can wear gloves, or maybe you could have somebody else dip it in the texture for you. I did have a student that they really struggled. So you dip one part in, and then you kind of push it down. And then use your finger to get the extra liquid off of it, and then just place it on your bowl. And you want to place these on the bowl, so you want to get about 2 to 3 layers of these paper mache strips. The more layers you have on your bowl, the stronger it's going to be. So if you did it with just 1 layer, it would probably work, but it would be very, very, very fragile. So in this beginning stage, just try to cover all of your bowl up with that paper mache. This is the same thing you would do if you were making like a paper mache ball with a balloon. The balloon would just move around a lot more than this bowl will. And you can kind of press it down, press these pieces together. If you've got a ton of paper mache paste on there and it looks really gooey and slimy, you can just place dry strips over the top and kind of press them into those wetter areas and soak it up. It usually will dry overnight, but it depends on how humid it is where you live. Florida is a lot more humid than Utah, so if you're in Florida, this might take a little bit longer unless you're inside and it's not as humid as it is outside. But where I live, I can put it outside and it's so dry, it just gets zapped. All the moisture just sucks right out of it. All right, I might add just a few more pieces. Make sure I've covered everything. Look around all of your edges. Remember, this isn't gonna be too strong. This is probably only 2 layers. And I would recommend doing 2 to 3. Even more if you want it to be very strong. And when you're done, you just kind of want to smooth the paper mache down. Get any globs of paste on there off. And then set it somewhere where it's going to be safe overnight to dry. All right, these have been drying for a while and they are ready to be taken off. They're hard, you can tell. It's pretty hard under there. This is I did a really big bowl and this is the big one that I made. That's the plastic bag is what I'm kind of pulling it away from, and the bottom of the. So let's move this bowl over, and then here's the little one that I did. So you can kind of see it'll get stuck a little bit to the bottom. You might even be able to just take, this one was pretty stuck, so take the bowl out and then just slowly, slowly lift that plastic bag away. So now we have these two bowls, this little one and this bigger one, and now we can do some decorating. We could also I would definitely take some scissors and trim, especially this one. It has such a tattered edge at the top. So I'm just using scissors to straighten it out. So you can use scissors to kind of cut those edges. You could also make it really decorative and use a hole punch. So we've just changed it a little bit. You could even add holes all the way around it if you wanted. And you might want to paint it. You could use acrylic paint. I just have some tempera paint here. So I'm just going to paint the outside blue and then the inside white. The nice thing with the paper mache surface though is that you can paint it, decorate it however you would like. You just don't want to get it too wet. So I'm just using straight paint, no water. If I used water, it might make the paper mache start to become soft. You can't eat out of these bowls, unfortunately, unless you put like maybe some pretzels in there or goldfish crackers and you could add more layers of paint if you don't want to see any of those letters. You could definitely make it darker. And then I would paint the inside like a bright color, maybe, or maybe even just a light blue. I bet you don't have as much paint on your hands as I do. So I'm just painting the inside of it a light blue. And then I'm just going to let it dry. And then I'm going to put it somewhere in my house. All right, I'm gonna set that aside for a minute and let it dry. Now, what would you do with this cool, humongous bowl? I think we need to trim these edges, but maybe we wanna give them a cool edge, like a sharp edge, like teeth, triangles. Teeth, flower petals, whatever you wanna call it. And I'm just going to keep this one unpainted because I like how it looks. If you don't want little pieces of paper mache to fall off of it like that, you can seal it with something like glue or Mod Podge just to keep everything together. All right, one thing I noticed with the bowl I made was that I just wanted to include this in the outro because it was a little hard to pull the plastic out. So what makes it easier is if you take the bowl out, like open your plastic, take the tape off if you put tape on it, pull the bowl out, and then it's a little bit easier to remove the plastic bag. Hold it this way. So I only did 1 or 2 layers of paper mache, so this was not very strong. So there we have it. It kept the shape. Even though it's not very strong, I could still make something kind of cool out of this. You could still hold something very light inside of this bowl. So I hope you enjoyed making yours. You can paint it. You could cut the edges like I did in this one. Make it into a hat. The possibilities are endless. You can do whatever you want with it. Now what I want you to do, now you know how to do paper mache. And remember, you could use any kind of paper with this. Just don't use really thick paper like cardstock. Printer paper works, lined paper from your notebook. anything, really. You could do so many things with this. But now that you know how to do it, your homework, not really homework, but how I would like you to apply this is go get a balloon or something and make it into paper mache and turn it into something. Like I've seen people make masks. They'll use a balloon as like the base and then they'll make a mask, which looks super cool. Or, I mean, why not? Let's just go with this idea and let's make some hats. You could make a hat, a custom hat. You could make a costume, wings, so many things. So have fun with paper mache. And remember, be a helper, help clean up the mess that this makes because it is really messy. And have a wonderful day.